Hello and welcome to the final ballot. It's great to have you with us for another week. I'm joined by AFLW captain and the wonderful Meg McDonald. Meg, great to see you.
Good to see you too, Lingy. How are you?
I'm good. Lots of footy over the weekend.
Yeah.
It felt like it went for a long time, but there were intriguing games everywhere. And obviously yesterday is when it finished up with that amazing occasion. Now, the game didn't quite get to match the occasion, but the incredible occasion of Big Freeze at the G and seeing, 85,000 people with, I reckon, 83,000 beanies in the crowd.
Yeah, you do it every year, do you?
A lot of years.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough, honoured to be part of the second slide,
Yeah.
the second Big Freeze. And so I love going along and got to spend a bit of time with Beck Danaher on the day. And it's an incredible day, and obviously the reason why it's so good is quite emotional, and it's so sad because of what Neil's going through and so many people go through with MND. But it's also almost a I'm got to find a better word than celebration, because it's not a celebration, but it's an incredible positive vibe around such an awful situation where people are coming together regardless of the teams they barrack for a pretty special footy occasion and pretty special life occasion.
Yeah, it looks. You can tell that on the broadcast. I've got to make a point of going in the future because it looked really, really special, as you say.
Yeah, it's pretty cool costumes too. I got
Some
a
great costumes.
big pump up to Erin Phillips, who
Oh my gosh,
it was like, has Pink actually arrived?
I was
brilliant.
shook. I shouldn't have been shook, but I was like, you look amazing. Yeah. This is amazing.
I think she might stick with that look for a little bit.
Oh, man,
Just
why not?
Sensational.
Go with it.
And Paddy Rafter, as being an ACDC fan myself.
Being a Paddy, sorry, I need a moment for, my first love, Paddy Rafter. I had was it 97, 98 US Open posters on my wall when he was rocking that. Hair that's probably the length I've got my head. I loved him. I absolutely loved him.
Well, because tennis was your first sport.
Tennis was my
too.
first sport, and I was, a 90s baby, and he was just it in a bit. So,
yeah, brilliant. No,
love you, Paddy.
And of course, we do give a shout out to the wonderful Joel Selwood, who took part in it and rocking the Robbie suit from that wonderful day in 2022.
Yep, that's right.
Sensational effort by everyone and great money raised. And as I said, a really wonderful thing to happen.
I'm a bit tired though. I was going to ask you off the top now. We've just spoken off air a little bit about some feedback, but I've got one from Jake. I've been doing a lot of running. Under the bus he goes. I've been doing a lot of running over the weekend, and I'm pretty cooked, but you had to do a bit of running of your own on the old
interview.
That, did you? I got sent it. How was it? It's always, because when you're like, this is a bit. I've been in that situation once or twice. You're like, what do I do?
Normally it's the halftime interviews are always organised. You know who you're going to talk to, depending on the team that's leading. So you have one from each team, depending on who's leading. It was Jack Crisp for Collingwood, but generally you can get to them. They're kind of all walking off as a group.
Chill.
Yeah, the player's happy to trail in behind. All a walk, talk, 2 questions done. Collingwood huddled and then just started running. And I had to do Jack, and Jack's like, yeah, no worries, but he started running. And
You're in training? You're
I'm
right.
in like the dress shoes and the suit and that, trying to jog along and not sound completely puffed.
No, well done.
But the whole time I was only thinking about me and me keeping up. We got to the end of it.
Oh, the camera.
The camera operator's on one of the steady cams,
no.
which is difficult to operate even when you're walking, to stay that steady so the shot at home is still a great shot, not making everyone sick. When it all finished and we went away, he said, "Can we never, ever do that again?" He's running backwards, holding a steady cam, which is a really heavy rig. So he's the one who deserves the extra votes. We've spoken about me running. We've spoken about Big Freeze at the G. Is it possibly because we don't want to talk that much about footy? But we're going to. Actually, before we say we are going to talk about the Cats and the Swans, we do have a special guest joining us next to talk ahead of the Hall of Fame dinner on June 22nd. Travis Varcoe, one of the
faves.
Absolute favourites, is going to join us. So that'll be coming up soon. And we're not going to do listener questions today, Meg. We're going to do that little mid-season review that, given its bye week, that we said we might talk about. But the game.
The game.
Against the very best team in the competition right now, top of the ladder, sensational team. But at quarter time, I was feeling very, very up and about the way the Cats are going.
You're caught, aren't you? Because you think this is just exactly what the doctor ordered. I mean, the pressure was elite. Our finishing was elite. You've got a Goal of the Year nomination thrown in there. But I did have that nagging feeling that, well, Sydney haven't got started yet. This is unlikely to continue for 3 quarters, but have we got a big enough lead to hold them off? Do you think we should have been a few more in front, or were you just happy with what you saw?
I felt we were so sharp. Our pressure was really elite. And then when we were getting the turnovers, we were flicking it back through them. So I actually thought, even at quarter time, I know it almost felt a little bit too good to be true, but I thought that we were that on that it was sustainable for the rest of the game. I didn't think for a second they were going to go goalless again in the second quarter, but I thought, no, hang on. This way of playing was the type of way of playing that got us to 7-0 and intercepts and great defence across the ground. We weren't waiting to try and turn it over deep in our defence.
A number of holding the balls went in our favour.
So I was really positive. Unfortunately, we then probably received a reminder of what the absolute best midfield in the competition right now looks like. And it was the combination of Goulden, Heaney, Warner, Rowbottom, Grundy in the ruck.
Absolutely.
They just got their game going and got their power running through the middle of the ground. And then the forwards got going for them. Tom Papley was excellent as well. But that sort of dangerous running power, ball use, dynamic play, gee, it's hard to stop.
It's impossible to... Well, you've been right in, I think, the last couple of weeks highlighting the fact that what's a challenge for the Cats at the moment, with a few missing, is the depth and the ability then to sustain effort and to be able to do what we did in the first quarter for the rest of the game. I think our pressure was literally off the charts. And all else being even, which, of course, it never is in footy, we're probably down 2 of our own match-winning mids, and yes, they're sort of the older generation, but you can't help but think that when the best of the best is getting it done for the opposition team, those 2 guys I'm speaking about, Danger and Guthrie, would have been helpful, but also at the same time, I don't know if they're stopping Warner, and he's just unbelievable. And then Goulden, you're not paying too much attention to, and he ends up with 37, 38 in a goal.
Yeah, 37, 15 score involvements.
I mean, the damage.
The elite ball use and the change of angles and the decision-making is just so outstanding. And you're right. So that sits there as the challenge for the Cats. I think when we look at it across the ground and when we're playing our very best, our forward line is highly capable. Our back line, really well organised, got a good combination of intercept players, lockdown players, attacking running players. And our midfield is good. I think is very good. It's just perhaps that tier below Sydney's midfield, and let's also throw in probably Port Adelaide's midfield, and then maybe Carlton's midfield when it's full strength. So that's where it lies. But I was having this conversation with some footy people yesterday. If I go back to 2022, now it's not about living in the past, but Melbourne...
Joel did on the weekend. We loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Melbourne were dead set certainties at round 10 in 2022. It was Melbourne and daylight. And we're all saying how far, can they go undefeated, all of this sort of talk. And I think I've said to you in the past, I left the Geelong St Kilda game that year thinking, I don't know if the Cats can do it. Throughout the back half of the season, a lot of things can happen. There's health plays a huge part in it, but then teams have to improve. Maybe teams drop off a little bit. The entire comp is probably relying on the Swans dropping off for touch, but then there can be a chasing pack of 2nd to 8th right now. I don't know where Collingwood are. Are they currently 8th? Wherever they are.
I think they just jumped us after yesterday.
They've jumped that high.
They're there, yeah.
So
even wins with us.
Say even 2nd to 8th as a group are all trying to improve enough to hit September in a better situation than what the Sydney Swans are. Yeah. The Swans, to me, are Melbourne of 2022. So far out in front at this point of the season, but a lot can change.
Yeah, a lot can change. Their talent is undeniable, and there's no, as you say, at this stage, reason to think that they will drop away with their sort of fervour they have for what they're doing and how they're going about it culturally, it seems, by all signs. But you're right. In terms of our own improvement, I was watching the game thinking, I think there are certain things happening here that are about exposing people to these situations or to midfield minutes or to forward minutes, to seeing how we work in different situations that probably we wouldn't persist with as long perhaps if this was a final. But you want to continue to see how it goes with Scratch in there and, perhaps they pull the sub earlier or, you're depending on Jai Clark, who's in his first real season, and is he athletically going to be able to go with some of those Sydney mids where they are in their development? Unlikely, but you've got to have these games for it to continue to develop.
It's a good point you make, because you look at every one of those now elite Sydney midfielders and you think of, you got to rewind your mind back
to 2022 again.
Well, no, but even further,
yeah,
6 years, and go, okay, so games into Heaney when he was young and he's forward, and they'd give him a 5-minute run in the midfield, and then maybe a 10-minute run in the midfield. Warner, Chad Warner's improvement is phenomenal, but even I think he was All-Australian in 2022, but that, games under the belt. Rowbottom, games under their belt. On the wing, Ollie Florent, games under his belt. Early on, exposed to situations so that then they could fast forward those 5 years. They make a grand final in 2022, finals 2023, and now they're in that prime sweet spot where games played, age, pre-seasons under their belt. You talk about that conditioning and strength and ability to run and all of that. They're in a beautiful little spot. That's where some of those Cats players have got to get to. And we see again, Max Holmes was excellent again. Yeah. So Max Holmes is almost ahead of schedule. He's at game number, Jakey, you usually know this, but
he's had
off
50,
the top of your head, 60
Yeah.
odd. So 60 odd still probably early for the sort of form we're seeing from Max Holmes. This sort of consistent, dynamic, game-breaking play that we see so often from Max Holmes is probably game number 110, 120 in your career. So he's even doing it ahead of time, and that's a great sign. Yeah. Jai Clark's at the very, very start of it all. So got to build that time into those guys.
Even the same for, I know we were speaking off air about DK, and he's only at 60 odd games or so, and we know what everyone says about big men. There are going to be ebbs and flows in your development, and that's not to say we're in an ebb. We just know that the player is going to be in another 100 games time is a completely different one again, and he's playing one of the key roles on the field. So I came away from the game thinking step in the right direction, really solid.
It's funny you say that. I was the same, and it feels weird saying that, given we had that good a lead at quarter time. You think, oh no, you should be bitterly disappointed. I thought, oh no, hang on. Sydney are the best right now, the best by a long way at home.
True buys.
So the Cats showed some really good signs and perhaps competed with them for 60% of the game. Yeah. Yes, they fell off in other patches. So we've got a long way to go. I'm not dismissing that. But I saw signs that could, if they played like they did against the Swans, I think can beat other teams quite well and put ourselves in a position to compete and contend come the end of the year.
Yeah, and I actually really liked the sort of signs of life in the fourth as well. It could have been blown wide open. Yes, it was 30 points in the end, but to get back within 2 goals, to rally a little bit, another sign that I think we've got a few things to be excited by after the bye.
Bendigo Bank Meet the Moment that we talk about all the time. Jump on the socials or the website if you want to check them out. We get to make a few nominees here with the public holiday and everything like that. We get to throw a couple up there. I mean, do we get to chuck Tyson Stengel's goal in there for potential goal of the year?
What? I mean, shout out. I mean, Mum's favourite player. She got a text message straight away. She tells me every week. I was like, that was just. I think we'll probably get to it in the half season review, but. He's putting some season together, isn't he?
We were just discussing some of the exciting young players the Cats still have and getting games into them. One player who has not got a game under his belt yet. He's currently still on 0, but I feel like there's one in the very near future. Can I throw a nominee from the VFL?
Please do.
Lawson Humphreys.
Lawson, the match winner.
Terrific game again. Yep. I think 25 odd touches in the VFL in a really close win. But to basically seal the game, to nail the game at the end with desperation, defensive effort, defensive decision-making, to then be able to turn that into attack with the execution as well. Brilliant.
The execution's unbelievable, and we've been waxing lyrical about his left foot, and he goes and finishes from outside 50 on his right to win the game. So, I mean, all reports are that his development's, going really, really well, and his attitude's exactly what you need it to be when you're probably knocking on the door, as we always say. So, maybe just a little crowning meet the moment for Lawson before his imminent debut, surely.
Yes, hopefully not too far away. If you like any of those nominees, or you want to nominate someone yourself or throw it in there, just jump on the socials.
Maybe Jack Bowes. Actually, shout out to Jack.
Oh, yeah.
That is an elite front and centre. Anyway, on to the next.
He keeps, his improvement through the middle. I know, again, seeing the best midfield.
Yeah.
Took our midfield apart. I get all that, but there's little signs where it can work, absolutely. Just quickly on the VFL, the Cats did get the close victory over the Swans by 9 points. Mitch Nevitt, really good as well.
Good.
So he's perhaps putting his hand up. Brandon Parfitt as well found a fair bit of the footy. So hopefully a few of those players, I know we're heading into the bye week. Hopefully Paddy and Cam Guthrie and those sorts of experienced players are looking to come back, but also a couple of those others saying, hey, don't forget about me. I'm playing some really good football. They have the bye this week as well, the VFL, which is probably a shame for those who want to put their hand up.
Yeah.
Like, come on, I want to keep playing good footy.
Freshen up, you'll be ready. You'll be right.
And the VFLW, I feel like I ask this question every week, Meg, but a not so good result, a 90-point loss against Box Hill. Are we still in that phase of AFLW
well,
players?
Well, there are some bizarre things happening around the league, Lingy. That's all I have to say. Sorry, not bizarre things. I'll get in trouble. There are teams that are playing a whole host of AFLW players and seem to be, using that match practice in the VFL as part of their preseason. So we didn't have anyone play in our VFLW side on the weekend, but it looked like it was a really tough game. But they're, as we've noted here, they're returning home next Saturday, and I think there are only 2 left for the season. So get her on the girls.
12 o'clock is the bounce on Saturday against Port Melbourne at Deakin University. So come along. There's no other footy for the weekend, so come along and cheer. Get a big crowd there and give them heaps of support. I want to take a break because I know we are about to be joined by Travis Varcoe, who's about to be inducted into the Cats Hall of Fame. I figured after that goal he kicked in the 2011 grand final, he was just immediately moved into the Hall of Fame. But
it's already on my mental note of things to ask him. Do you know you've kicked Lingy's favourite goal of all time?
All time. Absolutely, 100%. As I said, after we've spoken to Trav as well, we are going to do a little mini mid-season review. We might give our thoughts on who we think's leading the Cargie Greaves right now and just a couple of little random thoughts. But up next, we're going to talk with Cats soon-to-be Hall of Fame member, Travis Varcoe.
Hi Cats fans, it's Joel Selwood here. Tickets now on sale for the Geelong Hall of Fame dinner. Join the club for an evening of celebration as Cameron Link enters his name into history as the newest club legend. The evening will also see new Hall of Fame inductees and life members recognised. Head to the Geelong Cats website and check out the events page to book your tickets now.
Welcome back. It is great to have you with us on to the final bell. I'm very excited about this segment, Meg. Absolutely. The Hall of Fame dinner, the Geelong Cats Hall of Fame dinner is coming up on June 22nd. Tickets still available,
Tickets still available. Let's go. Get there.
Get there. Come along because we're going to celebrate one other person. No, don't worry about that one. We're going to celebrate Harry Taylor. We're going to celebrate Chris Scott. We're going to celebrate some life members who are being acknowledged as well. But we're also going to celebrate person being inducted into the Hall of Fame, Travis Varcoe, and he joins us right now. Travie, congratulations, mate.
Thanks, Lee. Thanks, Meg. I really appreciate it. It's very big honour, and something I'm still doesn't feel comfortable, but I'll get used to it.
Travie loves talking about himself, Meg, so feel free to ask as many questions as you like.
Perfect podcast guest, eh? How did you find out? Who shared the news with you?
Yeah, a few weeks ago, Steve Hocking had given me a call and updated me with that news. But when that phone call comes through, you're probably thinking, what's happening here? Has something come back to haunt me from a previous life? I'm not sure, but blown away, to be honest. you just start out wanting to just train and play one game, and for it to pan out like that is pretty surreal. So I'll get used to it over time, I guess.
Here's where I get to embarrass Trav a little bit and talk about him. One of the most incredibly selfless teammates that I ever experienced throughout my career. I mean, again, I'm going to embarrass you, Travie, but the skill was on show and obviously culminated in that 2011 grand final where there was just skill galore. But every game, Travie would basically talk to me about, how can I help? What do you need from me? Can I help you on your opponent you're about to play on? What do you need? Stop it. It was always a focus of Trav to, what can I do to help my teammates be better and make their jobs easier, which is something I just cherished about Travie as a teammate. So for all that embarrassing there, Travie, your focus going into a game clearly was one of the team, but how, combined with that, were you able to achieve such incredible individual play as well and kick the goals you kicked and still put your skill on show combined with being such a selfless player?
I'm not sure if there's a real blueprint to it. I think as you play, I think to get yourself out of your own head is actually being able to help the guy next to you. And I think that was one of our greatest strengths as a footy team, was the actual want to. It's one thing to say to do it, but the want to do it. I think that's where we sort of separated ourselves from competition. And you always look to your left and your right, and you went, yeah, he's going to help me today. Yeah, that guy's going to help me today. And it just festered. But I think for me, I try to find a different angle and a different approach, because I felt like I was always battling for my spot in the side. And I thought if I could be the ultimate team player and do those things that are not necessarily give you a stat on the sheet, but one that your teammates love and cherish to play with. I thought that would always put me ahead of the game, really. And then I always felt like football was my comfortable spot, and the offensive side. And I feel like if I got the nitty gritty bits right, that sort of flair and whatever. Sometimes I'd walk off and go, well, geez, I don't even know what I did there, but all I know it was good, yeah.
Sounds familiar.
So I was just like, yeah, that stuff with me was like, it's almost like playing juniors. And that was one thing that, before every game I'd run out with, and obviously I shared the locker close to Jimmy Bartell, and it was just, we always had this thing about it's just juniors, just a bigger crowd. Like that's the mentality I sort of ran out with, and it was a pretty decent crowd in the end. So I think coupling those things, like a bit of nitty gritty, and I think that the result and the flair and those little flashy bits, I guess. Like I don't really set out to do any of those sort of flashy things, but they tend to just flow on from all those bits and pieces.
I'm sure we'll get to the flashy bits in a moment, but I'm always interested when players do value those team first approaches and the nitty gritty bits, as you're saying. Where did you first learn to value that? Is that from your juniors, or is that something that you arrived at the Cats and looked around and thought, this is what this club values, or is it a bit of both?
Yeah, I think in my junior days, I always loved tackling. I was just always being a bit of a smaller player, you just had to sort of get in and hit hard first, or you're probably going to bear the brunt of that. So I think I came in with that sort of mentality. But like I said, like that Geelong side was stacked with such good quality, not just players but people. It felt like I felt like I could tackle better than anyone. Like not just Geelong, I felt like I was like one of the best in the comp. Like that's the sort of mentality I sort of rolled around with, and I thought that was my point of difference. I couldn't mark overhead, so that's where Stokesy probably got me. Burned me to a certain degree, and I was never sort of going to push past Chappie or Jono just from a pure impact point of view. So I thought, like, where's the next best point of difference? And I think at that time, that pressure forward. Like Bomber really wanted that, and I thought I'll just really show that and give him a reason to pick me. So and then obviously once you feel comfortable, find your own footy, and then like that stuff comes after knowing where you got to be on the field. And I had probably a high energy workload that I had to sort of get up and back and have a little bit of a license to do that. And I think I just sort of thrived just having sort of guidelines that were not too wide, just stay in between it. And if I can do that for the majority of the game, then couple that with that pressure and that high intense defensive pressure, I felt like I was in good stead anyway.
You certainly did a great job of that with that work rate. Right back at the start of your career, though, you did have a hard introduction. You picked 15 of the in the draft for the Cats, obviously. But basically, am I right in remembering missed your entire first year because you came in with a really bad foot injury? And how hard was that to adapt to AFL environment without being able to get out there and do what you love doing?
Yeah, well, I missed the whole pre-season, to be honest. I was lucky to play 6 games, I reckon, of the AFL. And but watching the guys, you always come in with the guys that you come in with, and they're out there training, doing pre-season, showing what they can do, and you're sitting on the sidelines, pretty much just watching, training, doing your weights. As you know, Lingy, I was massive in the weights room, and I loved it. And one of my most hated spots to be was the gym, and so you learn to love it. And but yeah, like just like watching the guys that you come in with just do their thing, and then they start playing games, and I just wanted to train. So I think as hard of an introduction it was, it probably humbled me a little bit more again, just to appreciate training. Games are the fun part of it. You got to put in all the hard work, but and then the other thing too that it probably taught me was listen to your body and actually be open with your medical staff. And I built great relationships with our medical staff, and never once did I not trust them. That was their area of expertise, and not one time did they sort of tell me how to play football, because that was sort of my area. And you sort of build that trust and love and connection. And I remember one of the, and this is like, you probably reminisce and you look back and you take on all these little bits and pieces, but I remember sitting in I can't remember what function it was, and Frank Costa was saying, we're a community-based club, and I was like, I have no idea what that means. All I know it was important because he said it about 80 times, I reckon. And then, but like all this stuff, sort of starts coming out, and you go, it's not just get out there and play the game. Like, this is actually a community that, lives and thrives, and how that sort of fits hand in hand. And I think the learning curves of that start, as much as I hated it, I think it probably gave me good perspective as a young kid anyway.
Yeah, I mean, these sort of events, I suppose, are looking, as you say, back on your career as a whole. And I'm interested because you ask Cats fans, Travis Varcoe, what do you think of? And I'm sure they think opening goal of a granny, or if you ask your number one fan over here, third goal of a granny, the greatest
goal in grand final history.
We often get asked from the fans, what's your favourite ever goal? And I actually watched it back this morning. I was like, he's run 150 metres. That was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was basically the defensive goal square. Again on the wing. And then you finish on the left, made it look like you were just having a walk in the park.
Didn't it? No worries. And so, as you look back at your career as a whole, is it, you mentioned the community, you were 2010's club community champion, I think. Is it those really big peaks of your career that you think of personally, or are there little moments that are more impactful?
Definitely. It's the little moments. I think, like, even just like referencing the goal of that third goal in the granny. It's not like you just woke up and it just happened. Like, I'm sure every club does this, but Kenny Hinkley poured in so much time with me as a young fella, and even up until he left. But those touch sessions that you do from a very young age, and like you might get one look at it a year, you might get 2 looks at it, you might not even get any look at it throughout a year. But the repetition and those little moments where you go, I just didn't quite get it right. Throughout the season, it's like a left foot snap that you probably just, maybe bellied that ball a little bit in a game. Like you just take out little bits and pieces, and you go back to the drawing board every Monday morning, and all those tough sessions. I think over time, I think that's just an outcome for all the processes that you put in place. And for me, luckily for me, it came out on the biggest stage, and probably one of my most satisfying goals. But that's the outcome of it. The bit that I love is the actual bits and pieces and the hours and hours of work that you put in to just execute. And that's late in the game where, like, I was thinking, if this goes any other way, I'm probably not running all the way back to the defense. I'll probably just run straight off the ground, or maybe just lay there. So I think that's probably one of the most satisfying moments. But sorry, I think there's other pivotal moments where even the stuff where yourself, when you were hard on me where you needed to be, and gave me the support and love that I needed at the right times as well. And Chappie was great for me to be able to learn bits and pieces, but I don't necessarily look at the game day stuff. It's probably more the love and connection. And if it was up to me, I would have been a one club player and never moved on. And but also, I'm grateful for Collingwood at the same time too, to be able to extend that career. But I think it's all the moments behind the scenes. I think when you watch footy now, and I think this doesn't happen. This doesn't happen. You just wonder, like, why is Joel Selwood so good and so durable, and even Hawke to that extent as well. Like, well, probably not to that extent. He is like it's unbelievable, but it just doesn't happen overnight. And so they're the bits that I probably more wonder about. And if I wasn't injured so much, I probably would have been a 300 game player. But they say don't count the games, make the games count. So that's the motto I ran with.
Yeah, well, you definitely did that, Travi. Obviously 92 games with Collingwood as well, and you played some great games with them too, which I always loved watching you and making sure that you were still playing that great footy. And I noticed it every single time how much your teammates at Collingwood loved what you did as well. It's a really great life lesson, I think, that Travi was talking about that idea of that moment in that grand final only came about, and his ability to execute it because of hours of work that had gone in week after week, month after month, year after year. You put all that time in just for that opportunity one time to be able to execute it. And I love all that. I love the fact that, Travi, too, you've continued to do some great work within the community as well. So right now, am I right in saying you're at the Pavilion School in Preston and doing some great work? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so we're an alternative school. So we're almost like the last stop shop, really. Some of our kids haven't been to school for months, years. Some kids, and for whatever reason, the mainstream structure has let them down, and they can be varying aspects to that. But the one thing that I do love about this school is 41% of our enrolment are either Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander, so very, very large number, and something that I'm really happy with. Happy that they're in this situation, no, but happy that I get to work with them. Now, how much does that 41 turn up from day to day, week to week will differ, depending on, some, resi care, foster care, out-of-home care, things that are happening in the community that prevents them from coming to school. So it's a really large scope. I'm not tied to the boundaries of the school. Can do outreach, can link in with Aboriginal organisations that, up and coming events. We do courses in a culturally safe environment. So that's where I'm situated at the moment. And, obviously youth and development has always been a really good passion of mine. And I'm happy that I'm working in this space. It's rewarding. So that's where I'm at the moment.
Oh, great work. Well, I think it's fair to say a wonderful role model that these young people are being exposed to in yourself. So, Travi, great work. Can't wait to actually catch up in person. We're doing this via Zoom at the moment, if you can tell with the audio. Can't wait to catch up in person on June 22nd, though. Congratulations again, and looking forward to what will be a fantastic night. As I said before, tickets still available. Chris Scott and Harry Taylor being inducted into the Hall of Fame alongside Travi in what should be a fantastic night. Trav, thank you so much for the chat, and see you in a couple of weeks' time.
Cheers, appreciate it. Thanks.
See you, Trav.
Big thanks to Travi Varcoe there, a wonderful teammate, as I mentioned, Meg. We're going to take a quick break, and then let's do our little mini mid-season review after this.
Hi Cats fans, it's Tom Hawkins here. Tickets are now on sale for the Geelong Cats Hall of Fame dinner. Join the club for an evening of celebration as Cameron Ling etches his name in history as the newest club legend. The evening will also see the newest Hall of Fame inductees and life members recognised. Head to Geelong Cats website to check out the events page to book your tickets.
Welcome back. It is great to have you with us on to the final bell. Let's crack into a bit of a mini mid-season review here, Meg. We are at bye week, a very important bye week to get everything right, bodies refreshed, mentally refreshed, get away. But it's been a really good start to the season by the Cats. I know it doesn't feel quite the same because of where the wins have landed versus where the losses have landed, but still the position the Cats are in, inside the top 8, ready to launch into the back half of the year. It's a really positive season to this point.
Especially when you contextualise it with the broader competition, where people are dropping games left, right and centre, teams are hitting form at different times, and as we've said throughout the whole podcast so far, Sydney are leaps and bounds ahead and everyone else is finding their feet.
Absolutely. So I want to ask a couple of ones. We've got a couple of dot points here, and we'll try and crack through them. We didn't do the listener questions this week, but we will do it next week. So please,
I reckon they'd be along these lines anyway.
Yeah. Let's go to this point. As we hit bye week, who's leading the Cargy Greaves medal count right now? You can give me your top 3. If you don't have to do order if you don't want to, but...
Max Holmes?
Yeah. And I would say he'd be leading.
He's leading?
Yep.
Who else plays for the Cats? I
would have said Jez smashed out of the blocks flying a little bit early.
Stu was flying pretty early too.
Flying.
I was like, all right, number 6, here we go.
But then quieter. Sin.
I don't know if that's been noted by the broader media,
that's true.
Lingy. Heard it here first.
Tanner.
Tanner?
Sorry, Grind's a good one. Yeah, Grind's actually a really great thought. I was going to say Tanner will get votes in a number of games, but Grind's probably even more consistent again.
Yeah, and for a big old stretch there, we were talking a lot about Zach Guthrie, so I reckon he'd be up there too.
Good call. So,
Grind, Max.
Let's go with the top 3 right now of Max at 1, and then either order of Grind and Zach Guthrie. Good call. Yep. Okay, I like that one. I'll agree with that one.
Oh, sorry.
Who have we forgotten?
Tyson Stengel.
Oh, whoops. Okay.
Sorry. I was like, no, there is another forward doing that.
Good call.
Sorry. He's ahead. He's 2, I would say.
I'm glad you thought of that.
Sorry, I'm going to go red. Sorry, Tyson. I'll personally apologise for a podcast I really doubt you listen to. Okay.
All right, Max, Tyson, and then one of Grind or Zach.
Yes.
We're not forgetting anyone else, are we, before we get in trouble and move on? No? Good.
I think there's a pack there that if they turn it on, they could come home strong.
Correct. And I think a couple of games are always turfed out, aren't they? It's the...
Oh, is this like a diving...
best 20 games, I think it is. Your best 20...
Okay.
I believe so. It was changed...
As in like they take the top and bottom?
No, not your top.
Okay, you keep the top. I was going to say
can
it's a
drop.
bit harsh.
You can drop off a few games. So it means that somebody who's say managed and smartly managed.
Yes.
If they play 20 games, they're
Yes.
not at a disadvantage for someone who's played 23 games.
Gotcha.
That person who's played 23 is going to drop their 3 games anyway, so it'll be their best 20.
Yeah, I sound like I've got no idea, but our voting system's obviously very different.
Very different. I think it's still that. I believe it's been that for quite a while, that system. Any Cats in All-Australian contention?
Mate, we forgot to mention in the
Tice,
Tyson.
yeah. I'm no longer part of the selection committee.
Go
I
your
stepped
hardest.
off.
Go your hardest.
I would have thought Tice is the only one. Max Holmes has been excellent, but gee, it's hard to get into that midfield and that type of player. You could almost put the Sydney midfield right now as the All-Australian one.
Can you, if we're allowed to ask you, the obviously disposal counts and that sort of thing have not been as high with the Cats this year. Obviously, it cost us at different times, but we were celebrating it early. No one's getting over 30, etc. Does that work against someone like Max in
when it comes down to line ball stuff,
Yep.
the stats are lent upon. We are, and I was always big on this. We need to go by what we observe and impact on games. And so right now, of course, I'll take the most obvious one. You sit down, you meet mid-year to create a squad of about 50 players and maybe a watch list of about 10 who've been good and maybe their reputations precede them and you think, they could have a massive second half of the year. Then you meet at about round 21 and you start really getting together about the 40 with maybe 12 to 15 spots locked away.
Yep.
And then post the final round of the season, you meet again to lock down those final spots. So, for instance, an example of Isaac Heaney, you just immediately go, Isaac Heaney, midfield, bang, done. No stats to back it up. Don't know where his stats lie at. Doesn't matter. We can all see from our collective knowledge, impact on the game has been the best right now in the competition. So you go from observation, impact, everything like that. But then when it comes to midfielder number 6 to 9 or 10, then you start leaning on other avenues. And often it is the Coaches Association votes.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting.
You lean a bit on those and then you lean a bit statistically. Okay, he's averaging 30 touches a game. Great. But 29 of those are chips back and forward and 0 metres gained, but also no inside 50s, has kicked 0 goals, is an accumulator versus someone who's averaging 25 touches a game, but averages 11 inside 50s a game and kicks 2 goals a game. Give me that player every day of the week.
Every day.
So you might lean on it then, but only once you've been through the process of what we believe impact-wise have had a big play.
Good to know.
Does that answer the...
It does.
Yep, cool.
That'll be the clip that gets clipped out for socials and explained to the world.
Yeah, and then there's some long, hard debates happening about, because my take on a certain player might be very different to your take on a certain player.
Okay, one more question for you.
Yep.
What position is it the wing that becomes most true in? Is the most polarizing positionally?
Yeah, wing, depending if there's a standout ruckman.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Do we have a backup ruckman somewhere in the field? And the bench becomes really contentious. Do we just have 4 midfielders on the bench? Because they were 4 awesome midfielders who couldn't quite make the starting midfield, so therefore just chuck 4 midfielders on the bench. Well, then some of us would argue back strongly and say, no, that doesn't look like a team.
Yeah.
Yes, we need 2 A-grade midfielders who just missed out, and we debated long and hard that they were almost in the starting 18. Yes, they belong on the bench. But then give me Mark Blitzarves was the best one to do a couple of years ago, but give me a key forward or give me a really dynamic defender who could play midfield as well, and that sort of player on the bench as well. So that is, you're right about the wing. Unless there's a standout winger who actually plays an elite winger role, impacts games, like Josh Dacos, again, for a great example.
Goulden, I know, right?
Goulden, they're certainly helping make the winger case.
Yeah.
But other years, I was there on it for I think 11 or 12 years, there were some who didn't have what we would call all-Australian years. Yep. So you find a way to get creative with putting somebody out on the wing.
Fair enough.
Cue lots and lots of outrage after the season. The most improved cat in 2024, Meg?
I don't know, Ollie Dempsey. Shout out Ollie Dempsey.
Yeah,
I think
good
he's
one.
been awesome. The one whose my appreciation for Jake Kolodjasny is through the roof this year, I think.
Nice.
And I don't know that you'd say he's most improved. I'm not sure. I'm sure that's just me being ignorant in previous years. But I think he was really solid on the weekend and has been.
Because it
integral to
can
our
be
backline.
from any level. So Ollie Dempsey's coming from a base of basically
Yes.
not many games and jumping up to being in rising
Mm.
star contention. So big improvement. But even seems too obvious to say this, but Max Holmes' improvement from being he shows some potential. He's got some run, he gets some burst, he wins a bit of the footy, but to now, I think, bordering on that elite company, like that's a big leap at the higher end of things, which I really love as well. I love your shout out for Jake Kolodjasny. I think Jack Henry at times has reminded everyone just how good he was after a little bit of injury caused him to drop a little bit. Just reminded, he's a damn good player.
Yeah, he is.
So maybe a couple of those. Best quarter of footy for the year so far. Test my memory here, Meg.
I know.
What's our best quarter of footy?
Or the best footy we've played. I like the Carlton game.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. Was my most enjoyable day at the footy. I was with my
what a
kids.
day.
I was sitting basically in the Cats cheer squad.
Yeah,
there were
good.
goals getting kicked. It was just a brilliant game.
Quarter one on the weekend was pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know. System wise, when have we played our best? I'm sure that develops week on week anyway.
Yeah, it
Check the
does.
phone.
I will have to quickly go back. Isn't it? We just so quickly move on from game to game.
Yeah.
And you just end up forgetting some of the and you have the recency bias of the footy that we've played over the last month or so, but you forget the fact that we played some brilliant games in the early part of
Too
the
much
season.
listening to the coach saying, we weren't, even when we were good, was it as good as we thought? Yeah, it was pretty good at times.
The Adelaide
Yes.
game, Jakey, nice. Like it. I like it. What do we want to see more of for the second half of the year?
Great question that I haven't thought too much about.
So this is my one. I might get a little deep in
Kicking
the
a bigger
analysis
score
here.
than the Oppo. That's my one. So you go. Yeah, deep
That's
in the
a good one.
analysis.
I love it. I think in the first 7 rounds, now I know that's when we got the wins, but we were elite at taking the ball off the opposition pretty quickly. Our ground ball work in the forward half was really elite, and we were hunting after the footy, hunting after the ball, and it was creating turnovers, it was creating opportunities. There was this chaotic nature to it at times, and then our skill was shining out, and we were using the ball well. I think it drifted to more, and maybe the narrative started this way too. The Cats are counter-attacking. Their bend don't break in the defence, so they're letting teams move the ball down, then creating a turnover in the back 50 and counter-attack. And the Carlton game was probably the high point of that.
Yeah.
But that became the narrative. Well, I felt like we almost lent into that narrative, and we were easy to move the ball against for probably half the ground, and then we became frantic in our defensive work. We turned it over, but then you're trying to attack the entire ground.
Yeah. So you want front half turnovers.
I want front half turnovers. I want back to ball hits the ground in our forward line, and we just have this buzzing Brad Close, Brian Myers, Tyson Stengel, Hunt, Ollie Dempsey, and then a wave of midfielders even coming in for the second line of opposition pick up the ball, and they've somehow managed to get a disposal past those incredible pressure forwards, handball forward, and then bang, they're on top of, and we create this chaotic, high energy game in the front half.
Yeah.
And then bang, there's a little under Jez on a little mini lead. Hawks just managed to get his opponent off. Ollie Henry's free. Ollie Dempsey's free. And we're playing the game more in our half, which I think only helps a Tom Stewart recapture his best form
100%.
behind the ball and Zach Guthrie be at his best behind the ball, because it's just rushed kicks back to the mid part of the ground where our defenders are set up playing it in our half.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think it's sometimes a misconception that the defence is best in D50. Like
Yeah.
our defence is best between the arcs when
Yep.
we are, as you say, when that's where they're winning the ball back. So love that one from you. Does that necessitate more centre clearances
I mean,
for that to happen?
Centre clearances, obviously, and midfield play is highly important in that, because we're saying we want that to happen in the forward half.
Yeah.
Got to get it in there first, and hopefully you score immediately. You don't need to defend
Yeah.
it, but
It's rebound where you become most damaging.
yeah. Versus if it's getting blasted out of the centre the opposition's way, well, then immediately we have to defend in our back 50. We have to create a turnover, and we have to somehow attack the whole length of the ground. So yeah, there is an end that the midfield needs to hold up as well. But I think centre clearances are generally, as they even out throughout the season, are generally pretty even.
Yeah.
I mean, it's rare to be plus, or in our case, minus 10 in centre clearances, minus 12. So I think if you can kind of break even at worst in there, then it comes to, once we do get inside 450, then bring the heat, and buzz around. So I think another point we had here, what are the keys to unlocking excellence in the second half of the year? I still think that's it. We do have consecutive games at the MCG following the bye, and some pretty massive games, which is really exciting. I think that's a great thing. Like, play on the ground where most of the finals are played, play on the ground against good opposition who might be there come the end of the year, and recapture that. So I'm pretty pumped about what post-bye looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. Is it Carlton first, then Essendon?
That sounds right.
Yeah.
I think, is it Carlton on a Friday night? I should have done my research. Yes, it is Friday night.
Sad for my Saturday morning training.
And then Saturday night at the MCG against the Bombers. We're in a home game for the Cats, that one.
Yes, it is, yeah.
So maybe jump on and get your tickets early for that, because I reckon that will be a huge game. After that, do we head back to GMHBA? We do, against the Hawks, who unfortunately are playing very good football right now, the Hawkies. But
that's a month away. We'll be fine.
We'll worry about that then. We head into a bye week. We will be back next week, though, with the podcast as we look towards that Carlton game. It seems strange playing the Blues again so soon.
I know.
But happy to take them on.
They've found some form in the meantime, though. So
They have. They're a very good
put
football team.
Put them back in their place a little bit.
We will be back next week. Everybody else, enjoy your bye week. Said if you want a little bit of a Cats hit, don't forget the VFLW play at Deakin Uni Oval against Port Melbourne. Opening bounce is at 12 o'clock on Saturday. Enjoy the weekend.
Week.
Enjoy your pre-season continuing.
Well, I'll have a little snooze after this.
Keep those Ks up, Meg. Well done. Thank you to everyone for listening. We will be back next week. We will have plenty to talk about. Enjoy your week.